Hello, this is Greg Van Kirk, and this is a Changemaker Coach video for my new book, It's What You Set in Motion, a Toolbox for Collaborative Changemaking. Changemaker Coach is where I, and in the future others, help you with recommendations, FAQs, guidance, use cases, applications on how to best put this toolbox into action and meet you where you are for what you're trying to do. Again, you can go to Collaborative Changemaking YouTube channel to find more videos like this, and you can get your toolbox if you don't already have it at collaborativechangemaking.com, Amazon, or other sites. So one of the questions I often get are, what are my favorite tools? It's kind of a Sophie's choice to try to figure out what those are, but I thought I would prioritize 10 that you might find helpful. So what are your top 10 favorite changemaking tools and why? So here's a list of 10. I'm not going to read through this in the interest of time. I'm going to just flip through the tools really quickly so that you can see what they are. But I'm just going to pause for a second to the extent that you want to hit pause on your video here and take a screenshot or take notes down. So I'm going to pause and then I'll go into the book. So my top 10 favorite tools right here in order in the book, not in order of how much they are my favorites. So let's go then. Let's start with that. So number one, in order in the book, is the Our Collaborative Culture tool. How might we ensure that we're creating and nurturing the right, culture for successful collaboration? Essential. It's not just about using this tool, but also by using this tool, you're sending a message to your team, your organization, community members, that this is a priority and that you understand that in order to collaborate effectively, you need to be intentional about not only starting a culture, creating a culture, but nurturing that culture along the way. So here you get into everything that Google identified through Project Aristotle are the 5 keys, psychological safety, all the way down to impact, and you figure out strategies for yourself. So that's number one. Number two, tool 3.1, the proximity whiteboard. How might we prioritize our efforts based on where we have the closest proximity? Right? So oftentimes people say, I'm inspired, how do I get started? Well, you should get started where you have proximity. And so this tool helps you with that. And it helps you consider proximity in terms of 3 other P's: the people, the place, and the problem. So you use this tool as a team, or you can use this individually, right, to try to figure out, okay, where do I have proximity? Let me start from there. And so, for example, I might have really close proximity to certain people that I really care about. Well, from there, I can figure out the place and then the problem. Or I might have really close proximity to a specific issue or a problem that I've been affected by or my family's been affected by, homelessness, some type of mental illness, who knows. Okay, from there, I can then figure out where can I get proximity on place and problem and people, Next one, design principles whiteboard. Fantastic for any organization, new innovation, existing product, existing service. So write it down here and try to go through each of these principles and figure out how well the product or service or innovation or organization or what have you meets these design principles. How adaptive is it? How empathetic is it? How measurable, etc. Rate yourself, then you figure out what the strengths are, and you can figure out where the weaknesses are so that you can potentially step in and improve. Consequences whiteboard, 3.9. How might we analyze the intended and unintended consequences of innovations? Right? This whole book is about it's what you set in motion, with the idea being that this can help you to create some positive consequences in the future. Well, any innovation, any product, any service, any project is going to have consequences. So analyze them up front, your description, and then you've got intended consequences. What are you trying to do? And you've got potential unintended consequences, second, third order impacts, right? Analysis, ideas for modification. So this helps you to consider up front, what are some positive things that might happen that I didn't consider, which then I can speak to, and what are some negative things to avoid. The next one, problem tree. Really simple, but super powerful, great for working with teams, great for working on whiteboards or on big flip charts. You can put down my problem, however I consider that. What's the problem that we're interested in? What's the problem that's going on? What are all the causes? Brainstorm. What are all the effects? Brainstorm to figure out where to potentially step in, right? Where you can be as specific as possible. Oftentimes move a cause up to a problem and start over again. That helps you get really, really specific on getting to root causes. So great for students, great for organizations, you name it. Certainly great for collaborating with communities. The next one, empowerment map. Okay, great tool that I designed that I find incredibly helpful when I was trying to figure out this sort of squishy idea of empowerment. How can I help people become more empowered to do what they want to do, their goal? So how might we better understand to what extent someone is relatively empowered or disempowered? There's a quick formula. Empowerment equals the ability, the incentives, and the resources, right? So you've got to have all of these to become empowered. Really great tool to use with anybody. It comes out with an asset frame. Next one, equitable access map, right? Oftentimes when we're trying to deliver a solution or provide an opportunity, right, we may think that there's access, but there isn't equitable access, right? So how might we analyze specific ways that current solutions are and aren't creating access? So what I've designed here, what I've gone through is what are all these different access considerations, right, of current solutions to solutions to figure out where strengths are, where weaknesses are, so we know where we can step in and provide more equitable access. A great tool no matter what product or service you're trying to offer. System components map, right? This is a great, if you look at a system, a community, an organization, right? This is from the great work of at FSG based on the water of systems change. And this is when you look at the system, it's understanding that there are six key components. Look at what are the resources in the system, policies and rules, habits, practices and programs, relationships, power dynamics, mindsets. Really helps you to not be paralyzed by looking at systems and trying to understand them, but to really break it down into core components to understand the current situation compared to what you think the ideal situation is, and then try to come up with some ideas for improvements on where to step in. Next one, logic model blueprint, logic model framework, oftentimes a theory of change. This is where you start and where you end. This is the Mac Daddy, right? So this is about defining the community size, and then really focus on what's the desired outcome and what are the success indicators for that community, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Right? I oftentimes speak in logic model, and it keeps me true to trying to create change for the benefit of others, that we're focused on how to create positive change for community members, and that as a consequence of that, we're going to be more successful as an organization. Okay, and the last one here is keys to innovation adoption. Right? This originally comes from Everett Rogers, and I find this just super helpful if you think about what are 5 keys to adoption, especially when you look at anything and why it fails. It's typically because it did not pass one of these tests. There wasn't a relative advantage. It wasn't compatible. That's a big one. Think about equitable access. It wasn't simple enough. It wasn't trialable, or it wasn't observable, right? So those are 10 tools that I find really helpful no matter what we're doing. I'd start with those if you want to, and then that'll help you dive into others. But no matter what, just keep in mind that you can always change the words. If I use community, use community, you can say organization, you can say team, say innovation, you can substitute service, you can substitute project. Right, this is a toolbox that has no boundaries, and that you can use no matter what you're trying to do. Just change the language to make sure that it fits with your organization and meets your team where they are. Thank you.